Hello kings, queen and party people, my name is MedioCore and today I will be explaining the entire storyline of Kingdom Come Deliverance, so that we're all caught up for the sequel. Have you ever wanted to leave your average life behind in favor of an average life in medieval Bohemia? With Kingdom Come Deliverance, you can. Welcome to 1403. Our story starts in Skalitz, which is a silver mining town located in what's now known as the Czech Republic. We are placed in the shoes of Henry, an average blacksmith's son who starts off as a real unassuming and uneducated yokel, who over the course of the game proceeds to develop into a slightly more assuming and less uneducated yokel.
Who does he take his orders from?
Are you stupid?
Yeah. In medieval times, blacksmiths' sons did not get many opportunities to move past their stations in life, so at the start of the game, Henry lives with his parents, is unable to read and cannot square up to save his life. Rather than following in his father's footsteps of manning the smithy, he dreams of a life of adventure, and he's more preoccupied with drinking with his homies and having terrible games.
I've brought you something.
What are you playing at, Hal? Are you trying to get me drunk enough to have your way with me?
No. In short, for gamers such as ourselves, Henry is relatable as f***. What is interesting about Henry is that he is just a figment of the imagination of Warhose Studios. Yet he constantly finds himself surrounded by historical figures that actually existed in this time period. And these times were tumultuous. It all starts with Holy Roman Emperor Charles IV, who served as the King of Bohemia. And reportedly, he was very good at it. In 1356, he issued the Golden Bull. Now imagine my disappointment when I found out that the bull was in fact a piece of paper and not a barnyard animal. That piece of paper was a guideline on how the next emperor could be chosen, and the mere existence of this document prevented many wars and unneeded bloodshed, allowing Charles to rule the land in peace and prosperity. In other words, this guy was revered as f***, and when he died, people were bummed about it. It is stated that more than 7,000 people accompanied his last ride. And if you take the world population into account during that time, that was everyone. Charles IV left enormous shoes to fill. And his son, Wenceslas IV, couldn't do it, because he was more preoccupied with booze and titties, which is understandable to most, but not his half-brother Sigismund. In response to Wenceslas' idleness, Sigismund kidnapped Wenceslas and then started an invasion into Bohemia. The target? The king's former allies. In 1403, Skalitz functioned as a silver mining town and fell under the leadership of Sir Radzig. By all accounts, he was mostly a fair and gentle ruler, allying himself to Wenceslas, but he also kept great secrets and insecurities.
Okay, Sir Radzig, breathe. Everyone is looking at the splendor of your armor and no one is looking at your eyebrow region.
Hey, this motherfucker ain't got eyebrows.
Sakra.
One day, Henry wakes up from a heavy bender, where we learn he is having trouble with growing up and lacking the intelligence and courage to embrace the responsibilities that come with being a man. It is never explicitly stated how old Henry is, but if I have deduced correctly, he is somewhere between 15 or 35. Henry's father is the local blacksmith, and he is currently working on a custom sword commissioned by none other than the Liege Lord himself. His father sees an opportunity for Henry to show some initiative and sends him to take care of a couple of errands.
I'm running out of charcoal. Run to the market and buy a bag from the charcoal burner and ale.
So Henry is tasked with picking up a crossguard.
Shut up and give me what I want or I'll kick your ass this evening.
That was pretty easy. It then fell upon him to pick up an outstanding debt from Kunesh, the local town drunk.
Your wife ran off. Booze is dear these days, and you're as much use as a square wheel. It's no wonder you're short of coin.
I told you I have no coin, you bastard! Get the hell out of here, or I'll use the axe on you!
At this point, Henry felt like he was out of options, leaving him with no money to buy ale or charcoal for his father. That will be changing very soon though. For you see, at this point in time, medieval religion was dominated by Christendom. This is a central theme in the game. So when Henry hears a disembodied voice telling him this, this game takes a couple dozen hours to complete, so I need you to get a head start on combat skills. He immediately assumes it to be God and he starts choking people out for stealth experience. Should have just paid the debt, my man.
You committed a violation. You're under arrest.
Next time get rid of the evidence. So Henry proceeds with his tasks, earning enough money in the process to buy charcoal and beer, alongside some nice starting gear. That rhymes. So Henry gets his hands on some charcoal and he is able to get some beer for cheap because his sweetheart Bianca mans the inn.
It's on me today. You can pay me back this evening.
While in town, Henry can engage in an optional sword fighting tutorial, but there's actually a better way to train your combat skills in this part of the game, which we'll get into later. If at any point during the tutorial Henry gets hurt, he can just go to his mother to fix him up.
Ma? Ma! I'm hurt.
My hands are soaked in the blood of the innocent. Apart from courting Bianca, Henry is also friends with Fritz, Matthias and Matthew. They are a bad influence on him. The political situation is also discussed in Skalitz, where a German named Deutsch is bad-mouthing King Wenceslas. The 4 young rascals hear of this and subsequently plot to throw excrement at the Deutsch's house.
Deutsch was talking such shit, it made me think of that huge parliament. You know, the one right next to his freshly whitewashed house.
So are we doing this or not?
Wait. We have to check that the coast is clear.
Why? The Deutsch is in the tavern.
But maybe you noticed after all these years that he has a wife and a son.
And that's a problem?
Aye, it is. Henry, you go and lure her away somehow.
Why me? Because you're the clever one.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, these children are doomed. So, with any other forms of entertainment lacking in medieval Bohemia, the children proceed to throw shit at the house. They are immediately busted.
Our sons! I'll make those smiles off your faces!
Henry, doing what Henry does best, immediately enters into unarmed combat. He then attacks his friends because he noticed that their health bars never deplete, which earns him some sweet early levels in the process. This is what they mean when they say we are made stronger by the friends we keep. Henry now had everything in place to start working on the sword with his father, so he put on his trusty straw hat and he started forging.
This will be the finest sword I've ever made. By the way, someone paid me a call.
Oh no.
I reckon you might know what it was about.
Oh no.
Because I'm pretty sure you and your friends threw dung at Deutsch's freshly whitewashed house.
Oh, thank God. So Martin the blacksmith uses this opportunity to teach his son about the consequences of his actions, and then foreshadows the next part of the game.
And we'll never have this conversation again.
With the conflict being resolved, the two continue working on the sword. At which point, Theresa, the miller's daughter, shows up. She came to the blacksmith to collect some nails, which is subtle storytelling, as it is implied that she also wants to nail Henry. This is somewhat reciprocated by him, but he is already courting someone, so it cannot be. Henry and his father finish working on the sword and give it a little test run, at which point Sir Radzig, accompanied by Sir Istvan, come to visit the smiths.
We did a fine job.
I would expect nothing less from such a renowned swordsmith.
Those days are gone, sir.
You haven't lost your skills, though.
Radzig swaggers past Henry and tries to act cool. Look at me, I am trained and educated. He then offers Henry a turn on the sword, which Martin objects to because he knows Henry will do something cringe. Martin was right. Sir Radzig seems satisfied with the work, and after taking a special interest in Henry, he lets on that he knows more about his father than one might first guess. Sir Istvan then threatens to shoot Martin with an M16 assault rifle. Henry is tasked with cleaning the sword and then bring it up to Sir Radzig. Afterwards, the two noblemen take their leave. Henry realizes he knows little about his father's past, and shares that he too would like to live a life of adventure before having to settle down. Martin warns him of the dangers of such a life, and reflects that he now only wishes for a peaceful one, hoping to end his days here in Skalitz, and being buried with his wife at the linen tree. He would immediately get his last wish. I want you to bring me their sculpture. Okay. Hellfire begins to rain down on Skalitz. King Sigismund's army, under the command of Markvart von Aulitz, prepares to raze Skalitz to the ground. Martin, probably having been in this situation before, realizes what's about to happen and warns Henry to get the fuck out, promising that he and his mother will be close behind as soon as he finds her. Martin orders Henry to take the sword to Sir Radzig, and if the worst should happen, Sir Radzig will be the one to take care of him, because Sir Radzig owes Martin. Make of that what you will. After going their separate ways, Henry cannot take the guild and decides to return. He then gets front row tickets to the revelation that his father is a fucking G. So Markvart von Aulitz catches wind of this and he is like, It is here where Henry's parents make their last stand, and he stands powerless to do anything about it. He then shares a meaningful look with the monster that ruined his life. Okay, I will come for your scalp next, yeah? Upon hearing this, Henry decides that it is time to fall back to the castle, but they've already raised the bridge, so instead he is asked to go to Talmberg. Propelled by a sense of duty and grief, he set out to warn his neighbors of what is happening around the area. They were not the only one that required help though, as Theresa was in a predicament of her own. Henry helped her in the only way he knew how. He then stole a horse and achieved G-forces high enough that it could make a trained fighter pilot shit himself. It did, so Henry, with a delegation of Markvart's army close on his heels, rushes to Talmberg, arriving just in time to fill in the locals of what is happening. So the commander of the guard at Talmberg, Sir Robert, is like, Oi, give this top lad a drink, what a legend. News of the attack also reaches Sir Divish of Talmberg. He hypothesizes that the Cuman army might have been hired by Sigismund. The Cumans, or Cumans, were a Turkic nomadic people from Central Asia comprising the western branch of the Cuman Kipchak Confederation, who spoke the Cuman language. Following this revelation, Henry is promised some food and lodging by Sir Divish. In the kitchens, Henry meets Lady Stephanie, the Lady of Talmberg, who steps in as a maternal figure for Henry, but she's also quite flirty about it? I don't know, but I'm into it. The two spent that night trauma bonding, and Lady Stephanie plants some seeds that she fully plans to harvest later. That night, Henry is plagued by flashbacks of the Skalitz attack. After one sick transition, Henry is rudely awakened by Sir Robert, who takes Henry to the battlements. Here, they learn that Sir Radzig has escaped Skalitz under the cover of a thunderstorm. Sir Radzig is wondering if Henry is still in Talmberg. He is, and he is very vocal about his plans to go back to Skalitz to bury his parents. Sir Radzig, being a compassionate man full of reason, is like,
Don't even think of going back there, you donkey! Are you tired of living? Sir! Quiet!
In a desperate attempt to save Henry from his dumb self, Radzig orders him to stay at Talmberg. The next morning, Henry is awakened by commotion just happening outside the city gate. Unfortunately for him, it's Markvart von Aulitz and he's hungry for some new scalps.
It's the bastard who led the attack at Skalitz and killed my parents.
Hallo! So Markvart explains that he is here on behalf of Sigismund and he is looking for the treasonous Sir Radzig, who has allied himself to Wenceslas. So Sir Divish is like, I don't know who that is, lol.
Auf Wiedersehen.
My lord, you have my utmost admiration.
I know. So Markvart and his humans leave Talmberg alone, but not before Henry shares a meaningful look with Markvart. You took everything from me. Bruder, ich weiß nicht einmal wer du bist. Then, like an unsupervised toddler, Henry jumps off the bridge and returns to Skalitz, where he says a mournful final goodbye to his parents and vows to never run again. Needing a spade to bury his parents, he finds Zbyszek, a former neighbor of him. Times are desperate, and Zbyszek has resorted to grave robbing.
You're picking dead men's pockets.
Am I? Well, it looks like I'm not the only one. How is your looting more honorable than mine?
Do you think I'm as bad as you? How dare you?
Henry won't let the insult slide and casually cracks Zbyszek's skull open with his knees, earning a spade and a dog companion in the process. It was time to bury his parents. On his return, he is ambushed by bandits because Trebuchet is a snitch. Henry is then coerced into giving up the sword he had made with his father by a bandit named Rund. He is armed with a biegbonk. Henry, having kept his vow of never running again intact, is about to be executed with the sword he helped forge. But then enter a king-shaming miller's daughter.
Hey, go f*** it. The games are over.
In the nick of time, Sir Robert comes riding from Talmberg and saves Henry. A gravely wounded Henry is then rescued by Theresa. Oi, this lad is a f***ing idiot. Henry, Theresa and the dog they found in Skalitz then ride out to Rattay, a village a few miles south of Skalitz. This is the place where Sir Radzig and the refugees are headed to. Henry and Theresa arrive at their uncle's, a miller named Peshek.
Theresa, this lad is a fucking idiot.
No, I'm just uneducated. Weeks go by and Henry is nursed back to health by Theresa, offering him care, shelter and food. Which is a good thing too, as Henry tends to get hungry at inopportune moments.
What have you done, you devil? That's murder! Guards!
I feel quite hungry.
Before going to Sir Radzig, Henry can ask Theresa how her experience in Skalitz were, which locks you in a 4-hour DLC where you can see the attack on Skalitz from Theresa's perspective. It is here that we learn that Theresa is way more based than Henry. And Theresa's skill count is also way higher. After that ordeal, Henry sets off to see Sir Radzig, where we are also introduced to Sir Hanush of Lepa, whose whole demeanor reminds me of the drunk uncle at Thanksgiving, in the fun way.
I have to tell you in all seriousness that this land of ours is in the shit. Deep fucking shit.
Henry lets Radzig know what happened in the weeks he has been gone, where Lord Hanush takes Henry's side as a shitpost. Then Radzig says something very interesting.
Your father was a remarkable man, and your mother, she was remarkable too.
Henry then asks Sir Radzig to take him into his service, upon which we are introduced to Lord Hans Capon.
All of him. Fled from the enemy, disobeyed your orders, duped Sir Divish, lost your sword, put Sir Robard in danger with his actions, and now he wants a promotion.
Sir Capon's right.
Despite protests from the rest of the room, Sir Radzig agrees to take Henry into his service, tasking him to train with Captain Bernard, which looks like this.
Flies, go into the attack with your whole body.
This looks weird, so naturally, Lord Capon uses this as an excuse to come shit talk. 1403 was the height of medieval feudalism in Central Europe. At the top of the hierarchy, you had the king who owned all the land but was unable to manage it all on his own. To this end, he would appoint nobility to take care of the smaller chunks of those parcels. The nobles would then appoint peasants to work these lands. In return, the peasants wouldn't starve to death. This system only worked as long as the nobility was treated with respect. To be in conflict with nobility as a peasant was a great misstep indeed. So naturally, this is how Henry behaves around Lord Capon.
What did you say? Calm down, boy. Keep in mind who you're talking to.
Braggart who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth.
Now you've really done it. You'll go to the stocks for that.
To see who is the better man, Hans challenges Henry to a duel, where they learn they both suck. With a few new cuts and bruises, Hans warns Henry that they'll see each other soon enough, which is actually that night, because Henry is tasked with keeping order around Rattay as part of his service to Sir Radzig.
I trust you haven't forgotten who's the rightful lord of Rattay.
No, it's Sir Hanush.
And besides, he's only in charge till I grow up.
Which clearly hasn't happened yet.
Enough! You can't talk to me like that. I'm a nobleman.
Crucifix! What in the name of Christ is happening here? Have you gone out of your mind? Raising your hand to a nobleman?
I tried to tell him. As punishment, Sir Hanush sentences the boys to go hunting together tomorrow, where Sir Hans immediately tries to get Henry drunk in an attempt for him to tell him more about what happened in Skalitz. Upon arriving, Hans uses his nobility to get us to fetch him wine and bacon from his saddlebags. I softlocked this save file because I gave the bacon to my dog.
And the bacon?
The two lads continue their hunt and close in on a boar. Henry is unable to keep up with Hans on account of him not having a horse. So Hans naturally gets kidnapped by humans. Luckily for him, training with Captain Bernard has paid off. Henry returns to a grateful Sir Hanush. Making a lasting impression on the nobility, Sir Radzig opts to take Henry into his personal service. Immediately after, Captain Bernard shares the news that a local stud farm by the name of Neuhof has been raided.
There's many dead or maimed.
Henry, being awarded with service and a personal horse, sets off with the boys to Neuhof, where he comes to the realization that the life of a homicide detective might be a bit too much for him at this moment.
How could anyone be so cruel?
After some investigation, Henry tracks down a group of bandits to a nearby forest, where he finds a hoof pick belonging to someone at the stud farm. The guy goes by the name of Ginger. This sets off an investigation that lasts several days and isn't all that interesting, so we're gonna skip it. So after a manhunt of a few days, Henry finally finds Ginger, who tells us of a man named Limpy Lubosh, which sets Henry on another manhunt. But first, Henry reports back to Captain Bernard, and he is less than pleased that he ran off.
I'd like to kick your arse back to the castle and be shut of you.
Successfully intimidated beyond belief, Henry reports to Sir Radzig, and he tells him to investigate in Uzhitz. But before that, our favorite cougar, Lady Stephanie, needs some help, which Henry is more than glad to provide, and he is tasked with collecting some wine, a crown, and a horse from Uzhitz. The horse, though, is unruly as and he only calms down when you sing to him.
It's quite true, I'm afraid. I sang to a horse.
Well, then you'll have to sing something to me, too.
Two horses come roaming in the merry month of May.
After that whole ordeal, Henry returns to Uzhitz, where he finally finds Limpy Lubosh. He is dead.
Sacre.
His killers left a message in blood. Unfortunately, Henry cannot read, so he spends another few days learning it. Amazingly, after all those weeks, the trail hasn't gone cold, and Henry asks Father Godwin of Uzhitz for help, who is a real pillar of the community, and the priest actually knows more than he's letting on, as Lubosh has confessed to him in the past. But the seal of confession is sacred, and the priest finds himself unwilling to break it. He does find himself willing to crack open a few cold ones with the boys though.
Well, I have to say that was a fine evening.
Unfortunately for Father Godwin, this would not be without consequences.
Mass! Oh shit, I have to say mass. You can do the sermon for me.
What? So, first I investigate a murder no one wants investigated. Then I drunkenly keep the whole town up all night. And now you want me to preach at them from the pulpit?
Yeah.
Out of chaos. God created order. This is not merely a mythological assertion. It is a fundamental truth about the nature of existence itself. We too must participate in this eternal process of transforming chaos into order. And so, if cleanliness is next to godliness, how can you assert yourself as a good Christian if you can't even keep your own room clean?
That's his conclusion?
God remains dead and we killed him.
Amen.
You were supposed to help, not get me into even more trouble.
With Father Godwin unwilling to help us further, we have once again reached a dead end. Starting from scratch, Henry goes in for a haircut.
No deal.
With his new haircut, he finds it high time to visit his best bro, Hans Capon again, as he can learn a lot from a nobleman.
My lord, this yokel here empties his piss pot in my yard.
And sir, that old hag put a spell on my cow, and sir, my old woman is fucking half the village.
With f*** all to do, Hans invites Henry to the baths.
Henry, won't you come with me to the Rattay baths?
Why to the baths?
Well...
Strip off and hop in here.
So the two bros are sitting in the hot tub, while both respecting the 5 feet rule. Unfortunately, good things can never last, especially when Hans insists on being himself pre-character development.
I've come for my wench.
Well, as you can see, I'm not your wench or anyone else's, so f*** off.
But are you whoring now too?
That's enough, Archibald!
Archibald?
After that, Henry was quite keen to return to the main quest. Back on the trail, he asks Sir Hanush for help, who sends him to the Rattay scribe. Literate people were rare these days, so scribes were appointed to do most of the writing. This included keeping a log of crimes. So Henry persuades the scribe into letting him read the Black Chronicle, where such events were described. It is here that he learns of a man called Hynek, with the nickname Riki, cause he's tank. Henry then sets out to travel across the map once more, in the search for Riki. During his investigation, he learns that he has a poaching lair in the woods. Unfortunately, Runt and his gang found him first. We know Runt as the dude from the beginning with the piekbonk. These are the same people that were responsible for the raid on Neuhof, and they have a camp nearby. Moreover, he mentions a man named Timmy, our next person of interest. But first, Henry can choose to put Hynek out of his misery.
But there's no help for you in this world. Not anymore.
Help me to the next one.
Okay. With a nice spring breeze in his back, Henry travels to Timmy's last known location. Here, he learns from Timmy's sister that he is hiding out near Neuhof when he is rudely interrupted by hot bandits. What's up, girl? Coincidentally, these lads are also looking for Timmy, promising him a job if Henry can tell them where they can find Timmy.
I hear he's hiding in Rattay.
Of course, the bandits are skeptical about this, and they leave General Radan to watch Henry, the post-nerf version. After finding Timmy, Henry presses him for information about the bandit camp. Timmy lets him know whereabouts he can find it, after which he realizes that he made a mistake in the order.
Oh no, bugger! I meant to make you promise, but I forgot.
Come with me, and at least you'll die like an honest Christian.
Never! You might as well kill me here and now.
This man took part in the massacre at Neuhof, and he was punished lawfully.
Victorious, Henry returns to Sir Radzig with the newly found information, upon which he gets sent on a scouting mission to find out more about the camp. To blend in, Henry decides to become Hungarian.
Hé te, várj csak egy kicsit. Mit akarsz, hogy ennyit bámészkodsz itt?
Húgyoznom kell.
It failed.
Itt az ellenség!
So Hungarian Henry returns to Sir Radzig with what he's learned, and Sir Radzig thinks the camp is in the abandoned settlement called Pribyslavitz. Not only bandits operate here, there are also a lot of human soldiers, quite possibly on Sigismund's payroll. With this in mind, Radzig sends Henry to Talmberg to persuade Sir Divish into giving them reinforcements. Hello Sir Divish, I require reinforcements. No, please? Okay. Henry, having been a poor blacksmith's son a week earlier, is now a master tactician, and he must choose the strategery for the upcoming battle.
Advance!
He lands on poking people with a stick. After a not so epic battle, they finally reach the inner center of the camp, where Henry gets a chance at revenge against Runt.
Judging by our last encounter, I'd say you made a big mistake.
Where's my fucking sword?
It turns out that Runt is very ineffective when he has to deal with getting arrows lodged in his eyes.
I'll see you.
Reigning victorious over Runt, Sir Radzig is surprised about how jacked Henry has become. But alas, the sword that Runt stole from Henry is not here, and its whereabouts stay unknown. That's because Henry killed the motherfucker in cold blood. Sir Radzig reminds Henry that you can't repo the assets of a dead man. A boatload of cash was found in the camp, cluing us in on how they were able to finance an operation such as this. Henry then throws up Lamau. We can then see the puppet master behind all of this swear revenge on Sir Radzig for thwarting his plan. We actually already know who this is because no one has a head this silly. After returning to Rattay, it becomes clear that the bandits are still at large, and they have attacked the city known as Neuhof. But the crazy bastards that lived there held off the attack and even captured one of the bandits. Then, Master Tobias returns with news about the money they had found in Pribyslavitz.
These coins are very good. That is to say, well-made facsimiles, as we call them.
What? I don't give a fuck what you call them. I want to know what they're fucking worth.
That's just it, sir. They're worth nothing.
Kurva! Fuck!
It is now clear why the bandits are so organized and so many in numbers, as the leader can counterfeit money on a large scale. Forgery in this time was a capital crime, probably because it made bank. Henry is then tasked with questioning the bandit, and he sets off for Neuhof. It is here that Henry learns that Neuhof is being plagued by a plague. Matthias, Henry's friend from Skalitz, is also here, and he can tell him more about the disease that's spreading. If Henry spends more than 2 hours on this side quest, he will learn that the bandits also poisoned the water supply. It's entirely optional to make a cure for the village, but since the captured bandit has also fallen ill, it's in our best interest to help everyone, with no other agenda besides altruism. As a reward for curing the village, Henry is allowed to interrogate the prisoner. The captive mentions that he would sometimes receive minted coins from Manhart, and he tells Henry where he could potentially meet him. He then gives Henry a letter that mentions a mysterious German knight. But it is not who you think it is. Hallo! Reporting back to Sir Radzig, Henry is tasked with finding out more about Manhart.
You can rely on me, sir.
Good luck, son.
Yeah, if you didn't see that coming, you haven't been really paying attention. Henry, who actually has been the bastard son of Sir Radzig Kobyla all this time, sets out to find Manhart, and he gets ambushed immediately.
Come on!
Further investigation will reveal the location of one of Manhart's henchmen, who has been severely injured. During interrogation, Henry is interrupted by a mysterious and German-sounding knight.
Where are those sacks you took from the wagon?
Never learning to fear old men in young men's professions, Henry decides to give chase. Henry being a very capable young man, he manages this without any real problems. And he learns that the knight's name is Ulrich. He is very secretive about who he serves, but he lets Henry know they share a common goal. And the two agree to meet in Sasau for further action. Henry takes a letter of safe conduct from Ulrich, and he shows it to Master Tobias, who recognizes the handwriting to be of the scribe of the Rosenbergs. Henry now knows Ulrich's allegiance. Furthermore, the document tells them what the fake money is made of. Henry then ventures to Sasau to learn more. Here, he learns that his friends Matthew and Fritz also survived the attack on Skalitz. Now that Henry has moved up in the world, they immediately hound him for a job. But that's not part of the main quest, so f*** him. Henry instead consults with Ulrich, and he has learned of sources of copper and quicksilver, which is what's being used in the counterfeit money. A local painter clues Henry in that the quicksilver might have been lost in an ambush. As for the copper, that's a different story entirely.
So back to that copper, Master Blacksmith.
I thought I told you I don't work with copper.
Aha.
Pressing the blacksmith's son yields a different result.
What are you talking about?
I'd let you read my bill of authority, but I doubt you're educated enough to understand it.
This is a big move, and Henry himself was a blacksmith's son a few weeks ago, so it's entirely possible he's projecting a little bit. After pressing his son, the blacksmith confesses to making copper for a criminal named Rapoda. The same Rapoda is mentioned after investigation of the Quicksilver lead. Luckily, Henry can just chance upon him in town, after which he will flee, which looks like this.
I give up!
Did I mention that I love this game? Having exhausted all his other options, he tells Henry where the workshop is.
I prefer you just kill me here and now.
Okay. Henry recruits Ulrich for help, and the two set off to the Skalitz mines to confront the counterfeiters. Upon which, the German knight immediately attempts to kill the leader, but Henry has learned from his mistakes and wants to take him alive for questioning. A conflict ensues. Killing is bad. Aber warum? It kills people. Ah yeah. Henry, a master of persuasion, takes the leader into custody, and he's now ready for questioning, but he only wants to talk to Henry himself. Henry finds out that the leader is a nobleman fallen on hard times. He was recruited into this business by a man named Eric, and a high-ranking member of the monastery is also mixed up in it. Eric mentions his lord a lot, but no one knows who he is. But we already know it's someone with a silly hat. So Henry reports what he's learned to Sir Radzig, and he tasks him with being recruited into the operation. The only way to join is by passing a test. In this case, Henry has to kill a man named Pius, but the twist is that he's hiding in a monastery, and not just anyone can enter there. And even if they could, they'd be without worldly possessions. As proof that he killed Pius, Henry needs to show a special die, or a boatload of money. After which, he is to meet the recruiters in a swamp north of Sasau. So Henry reports back to Sir Radzig for guidance. Bro, this is beyond f***ed up, you can't expect me to be able to do this. Well... So Henry is reborn as Brother Gregor, and he enters the monastery under false pretenses. He is shown the ropes by Brother Antonius, who gives him his daily schedule. And that shit better be followed to the exact letter, as stepping one toe out of line will result in solitary confinement. After spending a few days in the monastery, engaged in silly labor, Henry finds out that Brother Antonius is actually pious. He confesses and tells Henry of a plan that will result in them both being able to leave. All they have to do is fake Pius's death. But first, Henry must get his hands on blood, steal the monastery's key, and never be found breaking his daily schedule. All the while being deprived of gameplay elements that actually make this game fun. So after the story comes to a screeching halt, Henry and Pius both leave the monastery. Doing it this way will set you back a few hours, so you can also just do it like this. This is the way. Not having felt the touch of a woman in many moons because of his time in the monastery, Henry goes on a little date with Teresa. After that, Henry goes to the swamp to meet with the gang's recruiters.
Did you do that job we agreed?
I forgot.
You what?
So Henry surmises that the entire gang possesses strange dice, and that it functions like a secret handshake. Upon exploring Vranik, Henry gets notified that progressing further will result in some quests being cancelled, so this must be the place. An overconfident Henry promises to scout the settlement, and Sir Radzig reluctantly agrees. The strange die is indeed what is needed to gain entry, and Henry begins his scouting mission, all the while muttering that he's on a scouting mission in earshot of everyone.
Those tents look pretty impressive. These fellows aren't paupers, that's for sure.
Henry then has a sit down with Eric, the leader of the encampment. As a test, he sends Henry to the combat master, who imparts invaluable knowledge.
Take a good firm stance with your legs wide apart, like this, as if you're about to let off a huge fart.
Henry then returns to Eric, where he finds out that Eric's lord is none other than Sir Istvan, the nobleman with the silly hat. Sir Istvan immediately recognizes Henry, and it's revealed that he actually is in possession of the sword that Henry made in Skalitz. He then captures Henry and taunts him that his father will pay ransom for him, which is a bit puzzling, as Henry saw his father get bushwhacked by Sir Markvart von Aulitz. Hello!
Your father? Your real father? It's your liege lord, Radzig Kobyla.
Everyone knew this except Henry. So Henry, in no position to make threats, threatens Istvan that he will kill him with the sword he stole. Unimpressed, Istvan starts an evil monologue talking about how no one can stop him from becoming the new lord of the region. He then slaps Henry on the butt and leaves him to be tortured by his henchmen. Later that night, Henry is freed by Trebuchet. Trebuchet has joined up with the bandits, but to his surprise, he gets treated quite poorly, and he wants to leave. In exchange for immunity, he'll help Henry escape. So under the cover of darkness, Henry fights his way out of captivity. After which, Henry gives Trebuchet his well-earned reward.
Go to hell. I'll be thankful you're still alive.
You bastard!
After escaping with no help from anyone, Henry travels back to Rattay.
Father?
I told you he had balls!
So Henry shares his knowledge with the noblemen, warning them that Sir Istvan is in service of Sigismund, and he plans to eradicate the currently reigning lords from the region for allying themselves to Wenceslas. Sir Hanush argues that there is a fighting chance as long as Sir Divish of Talmberg joins the fray.
No more, my lord. I'm your father.
As you wish, my father.
Good. Now go to Divish as quickly as you can, son.
Hello, Sir Divish, I require reinforcements. Again. No, please? Okay, so the lords once again band together and they rain hellfire down on Vranik. I can see what's going on. So after clearing the battlements, Henry gives a letter from Sir Istvan to Hanush, which Hanush refuses to read because he's based. The lords find out that because of the battle of Vranik, another castle has been left defenseless. A recent captive reveals this to be the castle of Talmberg. Upon learning this, Sir Hanush once again proves why he's the best character in the game.
He'll never get...
We're planning on sending him to some monastery to become a monk.
So, the lords all ask back to Talmberg, but they are too late. Like father like son, Sir Radzig rushes in by himself, after which he gets captured, alongside Lady Stephanie. Sir Istvan now has 2 hostages, alongside the safety of Talmberg's walls, and thus holds all the power in this scenario. Sir Hanush immediately suggests besieging Talmberg, but he has never read The Art of War because he's based. An alternative is proposed in the form of a secret stealth mission under the cover of darkness. Of course, with his stealth experience, Henry is the best man for the job. So, a midnight operation is set in motion, and Henry, alongside Sir Hans Capon for some reason, prepare to sneak into Talmberg. They fail, and Hans gets shot in the butt.
Kurva! Fuck my ass!
Henry, being a regional weightlifting champion, throws Hans over his shoulder and they skedaddle, escaping just in time. With all other options lost to them, the lords are forced to lay siege to Talmberg. No good siege is complete without a trebuchet, but no one in the camp has the expertise needed to construct such a unit. No one except Comrade Kieser. He has been sighted in nearby Sasau, so Henry sets off to recruit him for the war effort.
Huh? By the horn of Joshua, you startled me!
He is crazy. Moreover, he is unwilling to leave Sasau, as he suspects that Sigismund is after him for openly criticizing him. To put his mind at ease, Henry will keep watch that night, where he runs into a nobleman trying to pick the lock to Conrad's house.
I don't believe a word you say.
Sorry, but I'm telling the truth. I suppose there's nothing to be done about it, unless you intend to skewer me on the spot.
A now safe Conrad is happy to construct a trebuchet for the siege. It needs some work. While this is going on, a messenger lets the lords know that a flanking army is approaching. They're under the leadership of Havel of Medak, and according to Wikipedia, he was beefing with Sir Divish. Fast retaliation is needed, and since there are no other suitable candidates, Henry is chosen to command the Skalitz delegation of the army. On my signal, we slap him in the balls.
At them! Charge!
After a short battle, the lords capture Eric, the previous leader of the encampment. Interrogating him reveals that Lord Istvan killed Eric's parents, and Istvan raised him instead. He later finds out that they're also lovers, which is beyond f***ed up if you ask me. The lords now have a bargaining chip of their own, Sir Istvan's adoptive son/lover. Oh no, they have my adoptive son/lover. Sir Istvan realizes that his hostages are his only 2 legs to stand on, so while he cares for Eric in a way that would land him in jail if this were modern times, he refuses to trade hostages.
Greetings, friends. Fear not, Lord Toth is treating us like royalty.
So it seems that the only option left to them is an all-out attack. And while this is being discussed, a messenger tells the lords that Jobst of Moravia has found himself in the region. Lord Jobst is a former ally of Sigismund and the League of Lords, but is now doing a little switcheroonie. The League of Lords were the avengers of higher nobility. Frustrated with Wenceslas's reign, where he gave lower nobility too much power, they rebelled against the crown. Out of respect for Jobst, the lords decide they need to get the castle back, and fast. With this in mind, Lord Divish orders a full-blown attack on his former home. With the trebuchet fully functional, the lords can launch a full-scale attack with the intent of rescuing the hostages. Under the brave leadership of Captain Bernard, this is done in no time.
We got them!
Victorious, Sir Hanush proposes a trade of hostages once more, and promises that they won't come after him after the hostages are returned. He swears this on his honor as a nobleman, and he really means it too, meaning that he wouldn't last a season in Game of Thrones. With no other options, Istvan accepts, but he'll drop Sir Radzig off in Skalitz as a way of ensuring safe passage. But at least our favorite cougar is safe.
Forgive me, husband. I'm sorry.
For what?
With Sir Radzig in tow, Sir Istvan rides off to Skalitz and taunts Henry that he will keep the last sword his father made. Henry swears revenge, which is a bit dumb seeing as Radzig is still in custody. Henry and Hans shadow Istvan to Skalitz, where they find he kept his word and Radzig is safe and sound. Radzig teaches Henry about noble honor, which Henry questions because let's not forget that he left him as a baby. Radzig explains how he couldn't marry his commoner mom, which probably isn't nice to hear. But Martin the blacksmith came along and he would serve as Henry's adoptive father. Henry then expresses regret about not being able to retrieve the sword and how he still wishes to exact revenge on the evil German that raised Skalitz.
I'll never forget his face. Or his name. Mark Vart von Aulitz.
Hallo! The two then share a nice father and son right back to Rattay, where they intercept the convoy that Lord Jobs is riding. They are also on their way to Rattay to parley with the local lords. That night, Henry has a dream where he is visited by Martin, his adoptive father. This is one of the most emotional moments in the entire game, but for me, it was heavily undercut when a glitch displayed subtitles for a woman being condemned to death by the church.
Will I ever see you again?
God knows. Make her proud.
Don't come.
Truly one of the best games ever made. So, the local lords discuss with Jobst on how to proceed, now that the latter has decided to ally himself to Wenceslas. He states that Wenceslas is a flawed ruler, but he is the best bet they have. Wenceslas beating Sigismund is the best way to move forward. However, to realize this, they need support. Their primary goal now is to find out where the League of Lords stand vis-a-vis Sigismund. Hans Capon, now a mature and capable lord after getting shot in the ass, suggests that he and Henry could travel to Otto von Burgo to find out the League's allegiance. Jobst helps Hanush compose a letter for this event, which is a bit fishy to me, as Hanush has trouble with literacy. So Hans and Henry ride off to see Lord Burgo with the letter. Just before leaving, Hans gets cold feet, as he has never experienced the true love of a woman. Henry is then tasked with helping Hans win over the butcher's daughter. He won't leave otherwise. If that's the way it's gotta be, Henry is going back for Teresa too. So at nightfall, Henry helps Hans recite poetry. It fails, and Henry immediately blames the French. After failing to win over the girl, Hans gives a love letter to Henry instead. So over the course of the game, Hans has gotten Henry drunk, taken him to the baths, and is now giving him love letters. I will hereby predict that Hans will at least try to give Henry a little peck in the sequel. The two bros ride off to their next adventure, and that is the end of Kingdom Come Deliverance, and also the start of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
Forward, men! Audentes fortuna juvat! Audentes fortuna juvat!
What does that actually mean?
Hallo! Thanks for watching until the end. If you made it until here, you should be eligible for some sort of award or something. Or it could be that you really like this kind of video. If that's the case, you can check out my Story Explained playlist, where I go about explaining RPG stories in the same manner as I've done here. Bye!